Ekele dịrị Chineke, ọbọsị dị elu, Chukwuobi ọma Chidi ebere, Olisa nwa amara, ka ụwa anyị ụzọ anyị niile ọbụla bụrụ ihe nke ihe ọbụla kpatara aka bụrụ sọ mma, ka ụwa niile site n'ozi ọma anya nwụsị obi aṅụrị taa na ebighị ebi ọfọ ya gazie ise. All praises to Chi, the Creator, the Supreme Being, Chi the Good, Chi the Merciful, Chi the Magnificent, with grace. That every way of our lives be light, that all our acts be crowned with good, and may the world prosper from our ministry now and forever. So let it be. Amen.
He say, good morning, good morning. Mama. Hey, I am so grateful to be here today. You know, I've been through some serious challenges health-wise. So what a celebration this is. It's a celebration for me. I'm still trying to bounce back, you know, but as God is my witness, as God has ordained, so to speak, here I am. And UD, I cannot thank you so much for your support during this very trying time. And your family, my family. I mean, I'm just so grateful. I'm just so grateful. I poured libations this morning. And I'm telling you, that's probably the best libations I ever poured, because it was very emotional for me, to come through what I went through. And come out bouncing back even better. You know what you say? You come back better. And this is where I am. I feel that I've come back better.
I'm so happy to hear that. So happy to hear that.
Yes, I want to welcome to another episode of Chism Live, the DIBIA Round Table, where we gather around the table for deep conversations about African spirituality. I'm your host, DIBIA Ochoaja, Dr. Wonyo Simre, and my co-host is DIBIA Ochoaja, UD Onyo. I am so truly grateful to be here with all of you today. Those who are watching right now and those who will be watching eventually. Before we dive in, I want to take a moment to express my gratitude to the divine for this opportunity to continue to engage with the living. And as I said earlier, it was really challenging for me. For those of you who don't know, I recently faced a surgery that didn't go as planned, and my body really protested. But as we know, resilience is the key. I'm happy to say that I've overcome those hurdles, and I'm excited to share this space with you all. Hear my voice, elevated, because the Spirit is working this morning. The Spirit is working, and I'm telling you, I do believe that from henceforth is nothing but goodness. Nothing but goodness. That is my belief. And I want that to be the same for all of you. Now, to keep the spirit of this show alive, we need your support. I ask you to subscribe to our channel, Chism Live, and become a vital part of our journey. Remember, our organization thrives on your patronage, and every subscription helps us bring more inspiring content to your ears. So let's make some noise together and show the world the power of our spiritual community. Today, we are focusing on a topic that's often overlooked. DIBIA, I'm going to focus on mythology. You can take folklore or destiny. The topic is mythology, folklore, and destiny, right? Now, these are elements crucial to understanding our spiritual heritage, yet they often remain in the shadows. We ignore it. So let's just talk about it. Now, African spirituality and mythology often emphasize the importance of tolerance through various teachings, various stories, various beliefs, and the point of the matter being that the mythology of African spirituality is diverse, okay? But it conveys certain values. In this case, I'm going to talk about tolerance. But before I even talk about that, I think it's important for us to understand why it's important for us to go back to teaching mythology to our children. Not that the mythology is truth, but that mythology has information, has teachings, has values that our children can learn from. Unfortunately, and Dibia, you will agree with me, what we have done or we're doing is allowing technology to teach our children. It's often very disturbing for me when I go to a restaurant or something like that, and you find that the adults are on their telephones, the children are on their telephones. And even when they get home, it's the same thing. They go up to their rooms, they're on their phones. And parents are on their phones. Sometimes even parents don't even talk to each other. But there used to be a time when mythology was what brought families together, storytelling. You and I were children, of course. Everybody started as a child. And I'm sure you can remember when your mom and dad, or mom, the OT, and once you hear OT, all of us kids will scream, Ayo,
Yep.
OT, Ayo. That means, oh, story time.
Story time.
When they don't tell you the story, just so they tell you the story. Let's tell you a story, mythology, just to teach you certain things that you must know, certain things that the world may not show you, but a story and the way they convey that story from a spiritual perspective will foster information, values, and perspectives that the children can take away. And then the children will take away those values and practice it. And then the next day, here's another story. Now, back then, the stories that we were told, mythology, did not come from books. It came from mom or dad telling you things. They're telling you not to repeat the mistakes they've made, or they're telling you what direction you could go. If you're doing the wrong things, this is something else you can do. Okay, so it's ancestral wisdom, if you will. You know, these myths that they tell us feature ancestors, often illustrating the virtues of patience and tolerance and understanding and kindness, all sorts of things. Those stories tell us those things. You know, ancestral figures that they may tell us frequently embody ideals of tolerance, teachings, the harmony within the community is vital for spiritual and social well-being. And at that moment, the children, they mix it with so much information, the children are not even aware that they're being taught something until the end of the story. Then the parent will ask, so what did you just learn? And that's when the child will repeat what they learned from the story. But we have moved away from that. We have moved away from that. And quite frankly, I'm not sure, DIBIA UD, I'm not really sure how we're raising kids anymore.
Me neither.
You know, because these mythologies serve as, powerful vehicles for teaching and encouraging individuals and communities to embrace each other, embrace diversity, seek harmony, all of that. But I just don't even know. Every day when I see our children and using profanity, insulting adults, not embracing their culture, even ashamed of their culture. You know, it's sad. It's sad. And mythology is a powerful spiritual way. You do that every single day. And it didn't, like I said earlier, it didn't come from books. You gather your children every evening, tell them a story with values that they can take into the world. Those gadgets that we're giving them, and we're thinking, okay, well, you know, we're in the 21st century. Those things are quite, believe it or not, are damaging. They don't bring families together. They don't bring communities together. Instead, what it does, it creates individuality. The children, one child is thinking this way, the other child is thinking this way, mom and dad are thinking the other way. Now, I'm not saying this happens in every family. Kudos to those families who continue to be the ones raising the children. You know, there's an African mythology, a story that teaches tolerance. DIBIA, you're familiar with this story. Anansi the spider.
Yeah.
It's a West African folklore, particularly among the Akan people of Ghana. You know, the story of Anansi and the wisdom of the world. You know, in this story, Anansi is a very clever spider. And he's tasked with gathering all the wisdom of the world. That's what he's supposed to do. He manages to collect all the wisdom of the world and puts it in a pot, intending to keep it all for himself. However, Anansi realizes that it is too much to bear alone and decides to hide the pot at the top of a tall tree, so only he can have access to wisdom. Now, as he tries to climb the tree, he's struggling. His son, Ndumbe, suggests that if Anansi were to tie the pot to his back instead of holding it in front of him, he could climb more easily. Anansi, feeling prideful, dismisses his son's advice. He made several attempts to climb the tree, but he ultimately failed. But when he realized that he should listen to his son, he put the pot and the back of his behind him and was able to climb to the top of the tree. Now, so what is the moral of this story? If a child heard about Anansi and the spider, what would this child learn? What would you say to the child? What did you learn from this story? The child most likely will say, hey, it's good to listen to others. Anansi learns that wisdom is not just something to be hoarded, but shared, and that others can offer valuable insights. This encourages children to be tolerant of differing opinions and ideas. You see, how are we teaching what I just said? How are we teaching teaching the children about tolerance? I'm sure there are many ways that we're teaching children about tolerance. Okay, but the Anansi and the spider is really a very good story. Now, in Igbo mythology, what is the equivalence? Now, most Igbos use proverbs. Okay, what is that? If you listen carefully, you hear the footsteps of the ants. And you know what, if I remember correctly, some of the times that I would go to schools, and I did a lot of that. I went to elementary schools and, to teach African folklore, and the children are so enthralled. They're just staring at me. They just want to know what I have to say. Every time you say, Dr. Simmery is coming, oh, the lady who tells those stories. And I'm telling you, you could drop a pin on the floor. These children are hungry for that kind of connectedness. Their children, they're hungry. They have all the gadgets, but they're hungry for somebody to come and tell them a story that they can learn from. Now, like I said, at the moment, they don't know they're learning something, but they do. They do learn something at the end of the story. For instance, the Igbos will tell you, Jinden Tegeka. And then what I do is when I go to these schools, I tell the children, hold your right ears. Hold your right ears. And they'll hold it and they look at each other. Why does she want me to hold? Why does she want us to hold our right ears? And I tell them at the end of this story, you will know why. Because if you listen closely, you are going to hear the footsteps of the ants. Of course, they're excited about that. That's an impossibility. How can they hear the footsteps of the ants? But then they're holding anyone who drops their hand. I say, go back, pick up your, hold your right ears, hold your right ear. And I'll tell them whatever story I wish to tell them. And at the end of the day, I'll ask them, did you hear the footsteps of the ants? And they say, no, we didn't hear the footsteps of the ants. I said, yes, you did. I'm the ant, and you paying attention. You heard my words, and my words are the footsteps of the ants. And I said, oh, Mr. Dr. Simmery, that's not right. That's not fair. I said, well, did you hear the story? Yeah, what was the story about? And they tell me what the story was about. And so it's so important that we as African spiritualists emphasize the importance of paying attention to stories that teach values. Now, you did the other one, the tortoise and the hare, right? It's a story, obviously, about the tortoise and the hare. The tortoise was the hare was so proud that he thought that he was going to be, that he was smarter, and faster than the hare, and that the hare couldn't catch up with him. So when they had a competition, a race, what did the hare do? The hare ran faster than the turtle, and the turtle took its time, right? Running, taking its time. The slow moving turtles eventually won. Why did he win? He continued at whatever pace he was going, whereas the hare, who took off quickly, got tired, but seeing that he had a large lead, decided to take a nap. In the meantime, the tortoise did not take a nap. First of all, he didn't exhaust himself. He took his time. He just continued to go, plod along steadily without giving up. When the hare obviously wakes up, he realizes that the turtle is near the finish line, and the hare rushes to catch up, but it's too late. The tortoise crosses the finish line first, winning the race. What is the moral of this story for these children? Okay, take your time. Everyone has unique strengths. Don't underestimate what another person can do. You may have strength, and you may see another person as a weak person, but don't underestimate that. You have to realize, yes, you have your own, and you work upon the strengths that you have. But don't look at the other person and think, oh, because I'm strong, that they can't compete with me, because they can. That's what the children learn when you tell them that story. They avoid being arrogant. The hare's overconfidence and dismissal of the turtle's ability serves as a reminder to be humble and tolerant of others, regardless of their apparent shortcomings. You see. So I'm going to turn this over to you, DIBIA. But I think that this is what I try to do with my grandsons. I try to sit with them and tell them stories. And at the end of the story, I want to know what they learned. What they learned may not necessarily be what I intended for them to learn. But what they heard, they can describe it in their way. And it's important for me not to say, oh no, what you learned, that's not what this is supposed to teach you. This is what it's supposed to teach you. No, tell the story, tell the myth, and let the children tell you what they learned. And their interpretation may be different from yours, but they've learned something. You created collaboration. You created a community. You created an environment where they feel safe, where they think that they can express themselves based on what they've heard. So the challenge, obviously, for us parents who tell these stories is not to say, now, this is what my story is trying to teach you. No, teach and let them express themselves. Let them tell you what they think. And as long as they, and when they go out there, believe it or not, they practice what you didn't even know they learned. Mythology is important, even in spirituality. Everything that everyone knows about God or Chineke or Allah or whatever, it's all based on mythology. They were supposed to learn something from it. We're supposed to grow from it. But we as adults now, before cell phones were a thing, we had when you and I were kids, there were no cell phones, were there?
No.
Well, that wasn't. No, we did. We had telephones.
That was a pipe dream back then.
Yeah, nobody sat in front of a telephone to tell them.
That was Star Wars. Nobody even thought about that.
No. You see, so the stories wasn't even my parents, my mother didn't sit down and start reading anything to us. They didn't do that. They told us mythologies that they heard when they too were young, and they're just passing it on to us, And so we need to, even though, AI and all of that stuff is important, and it helps with whatever is necessary in the 21st century. But those old ways, those spiritual collaboration that we had with our children, with our communities, when you have the elders sitting around the boiling pot or whatever in the villages. Hey, you did remember, we used to love going home.
Yeah.
We used to love. We didn't go home to go watch TV. We didn't go home.
It was part of your upbringing expectations.
Yes.
It was part of what growing up was about.
Yes.
It was a different contract with your parents, society, and God.
it's so important that we go back to, yeah, absorb some of the technology of the 21st century. Absolutely, there's nothing wrong with that. But we need to teach values. Those technology, they don't teach values. Values come from home, from the parents, you know, and we should go back to that. So if you're not doing that as a chaist, pick that up again. If you have children, find time to spend with them away from their from Facebook, away from their cell phones, away from televisions. Tell them stories that bear the kind of values you want them to have. That's where they get the values from home. When you see young people, DBIUD, they're out here running around trying to shoot and kill, you know, because they're taking some of those games that you allow them to watch. And then after we allow them to watch, we put these games together, we allow them to watch it, and you're surprised they're out there looking for guns, shooting, even some to level of cruelty. You have some children, well, maybe they don't shoot human beings, but they shoot animals, they kill animals. But that's based on what they see. What is the value system in those games? Have you watched those games recently, DBIUD?
Yeah.
What values are they learning from that?
Well, how to kill 10 people at once.
How to kill.
Yeah.
How to kill. You see, so what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts about that?
This is really a deep dive, because a very important topic, by the way, that we're addressing this morning, because the entirety of human experience is really wound around mythology, right? And
Yes.
mythology is not something that is accepted as facts, right? It's not something that you test in a test tube in the lab. That's not the purpose of mythology. If it was testable, then it wouldn't be called mythology, right? It would be called science. It would be something that, you know, you can quantify, you know, and you can test in the lab. But let's just do a little deeper dive into mythology and its importance, and why it's very relevant today, why it's always been relevant, you know, based on, number one, the kinds of educational system we have, both in the school environment outside the house, and also the education that you get within the household from your parents and all that. So those are two kinds of education. One is institutionalized outside of the home, and the other one is institutionalized as part of the human community. For example, marriage is an institution that produces children, and then that institution produces children, and it is through that institution that myth is fed to the next generation, so that there's a level of dignity in belonging to a particular society. And we're going to get into that in a little bit. But let me break down mythology for what it is, and which is a collection of traditional stories, fables, and legends belonging to a specific culture that explains the origins of the world, natural phenomenon, and human behavior. It explores the lives of deities, gods, demigods, or heroes, whatever you want to call it, all of them serving the same purpose: unifying a community and grounding it in certain norms and traditions that allows this community to be productive and continue to grow into the future, and provide the kind of environment that the next generation thrives in.
Yes.
Now, there's something that we always talk about on our show, and okay, DB, you always bring it up, you know, the history. Somebody gonna tell your own story if you're gonna tell it yourself, and tell it the right way. And some of the myths that you in your society get to embellish may not be yours, right? Because you're not in total control. You're allowing outside forces to come in with mythologies that are not relevant to your primordial core. Let me explain. There are different types of mythology, scholastically, that we know. Unfortunately, and I mean unfortunately, how you say, whoever has the gold makes the rules, so they write your history, present to the rest of the human population, because they're in control. So you have to have that understanding based on their presentation. There's Greek and Roman mythology, which features Olympian gods like Zeus, Jupiter, Athena, Minerva, It focuses on faith, hubris,
Yes.
and the human condition. Then you have the Norse culture that focuses on a universe connected by the world. I mean, the world tree with gods or deities, whatever you want to call them, like Odin, Thor,
Yes.
right? We watch the movies. What's the movie called with the Iron Man and all that? Thor is part of that universe, right? You know,
Yes.
there's a Norse culture. And the tales of Ragnarok, which is the end of the world, and you're going to see the relationship between all these mythologies, how they're interconnected, called something different, but in the end, it means the same thing. For example, the battle to end it all is called Ragnarok. In the Christian parlance, you're talking about the end of the world, the four horsemen where the come and things blow up. It's all the same thing, right? They just presented differently, but teaching the same story. That's Norse
Yes.
culture. Then you have the Egyptian culture, which revolves around the afterlife, which kind of brings us more back to the African thing, right? The afterlife. Egyptian revolves around the afterlife, the Nile, and deities like Osiris, Isis, and Ra. Now, that's the only place where there's an interconnection in our educational system globally, where there's any kind of mention of African mythology, is through the Egyptian perspective that Africa is presented, right? True. However, what about sub-Saharan Africa? Those of us with my hue that ended up here still in the motherland, that were not affected by Egyptian mythology, because we have to also understand that the Egyptian mythology, if you look at human migration from South Central Africa, you will find out that mythologies arose from there before the Egyptian, before the Greek, then the Norse, then the Asian and the Celtic and Arthurian mythologies. They were never mentioned, but let's continue. Then you have the Celtic and Arthurian mythology, rich in folklore, shapeshifters, legendary heroes like King Arthur, werewolves and all that stuff. Those are mythologies that ended up in Hollywood. Asian mythology or Mesoamerican mythology includes mythologies like Japanese folklore, spirits of Kami, for example, and the Aztec deities in South America. These are the major mythologies scholastically expressed in your textbooks and AI all over the world, but there's no mention of core sub-Saharan African mythology. And I think that is our responsibility, not only for this show, but for our professors in the universities that develop our educational system to include sub-Saharan Black African mythology in its educational system, so that we too, when we AI, can also be pulled up as an example of global mythological ideas or belief systems. Now, the core purpose of mythology is to provide, or should I say, for cosmology, it provides scientific questions. How the seasons change, the rainy seasons, the dry seasons, all that kind of stuff. These are all part of or purpose of mythology. Then you have the moral aspect of it, which outlines societal values, our heroic archetypes, and the consequences of immoral actions. These are all purposes of mythology. Then you have the ritualistic myth that links directly to religious practices, worship, God worship, and festivals. These are all part of mythology and the core purpose of it and the kinds of benefit that we get from these things. Now, as you mentioned, when we were growing up, we couldn't wait to sit around the kitchen table. Well, most of us would sit on the floor. The storyteller, sat on the chair, outside or in the living room or whatever. Wherever gives children the opportunity to gather around an elder, your mother, your father, an older cousin, whoever, as long as you're sitting down there by their feet, looking up to them and listening with every fiber of your being, trust me, that is probably the happiest as a kid you will ever be. To sit there listening to these kinds of stories. So you ask yourself, what is the benefits of teaching myth? let me point something out, because sometimes we're told that science is really what it's all about. And as science begins to expose some of the mythical ideas about life, our science begins to open our eyes to some of the things that we looked at as magic, only to find out that that magic that we attributed to God is simply science. Personally, I never separated God from science. It's one and the same. Science is just how do you say, a better understanding of mythical, magical, godly type things that awe us, like the air we breathe and all that. And then a deep dive will not let you know, oh, you're breathing oxygen. See, our forefathers didn't call it oxygen. They might have called it something else. But scientifically, they didn't know about, the hydrogen and the oxygens and nitrogens and helium and all these kinds of, metals out here in the world. But when as science continues to move along, develop, as we get better understanding of the life that is milling around us, as we develop scientific explanations for these miracles that our forefathers looked upon, we now begin to see that all this stuff we see, volcanic eruptions, diseases, all that, there's a lot of scientific explanation. And as time goes on, we discover. But that does not mean that we diminish the existence of the Creator, of Chineke. Because as my father once questioned at the United Nations, can any scientist here prove to me that Chineke, that God, wasn't responsible for the Big Bang? And they couldn't prove it. Just as much that they couldn't prove the Big Bang to okay. Their theory is what it is. That's all it is. It's theoretical, because there's still no proof of the Big Bang and how it happened. It's just our current understanding. Trust me, 100 years from now, we ain't talking about the Big Bang. We're talking about something else. Okay? So God and science are one and the same. The scientific part is just our understanding a little bit more of godly things. That's my look. But that's for a different show altogether. But what are the key benefits of mythology? It provides cultural and psychological framework that helps us all make sense of the human experience. Beyond mere entertainment, these ancient narratives offer practical life lessons, deepen cultural understanding of yourselves, of ourselves, of one's self, and act as a compass for navigating personal transitions and ethical dilemmas. Those are things that science can't provide. Science just provides answers. It's either white or it's red. It's blue or it's green. It's one or it's two. There's no walk around when it comes to scientific things. Key benefits: psychological and emotional guidance. Mythology utilizes universal archetypes that mirror our own struggles, doubts, and desires. They serve as roadmaps for overcoming personal crises and difficult life transitions. Same problem a black man has, a white man does. An Asian, an Aztec, a Nigerian, an African American, a Jamaican, a Celtic or Celtic, a Russian, a Japanese, we all have the same problem of psychological and needing emotional guidance. And mythology provides that regardless of your skin tone or your cultural allegiance or which flag you bow to. It's all the same. Moral and ethical framework, mythology provides that with stories of deities, gods, if you will, whatever you want to call them, heroes and tricksters, and teach enduring life lessons about virtues, courage, honesty, and consequences of human flaws and greed, jealousy. This is something that science cannot teach you. So mythology should not be looked upon as voodoo magic, as something that is irrelevant in today's world. Because myth is your roadmap, gives you the moral compass and ethical framework and shows you how to relate both to your environment and your fellow human being. And with this moral and ethical framework, then tolerance becomes the order of the day. Understanding becomes the order of the day. And in the end, what do you get out of that? Peace.
Yes.
Better relationships with your neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
Better science. Science works better for the benefit of the human condition as opposed to science working to kill you with the nuclear bombs and the biological weapons and stuff like that. Science can be good and it can be bad. And if you go on the religious back end of it, spirituality or religion, whatever you want to call it, without having to break it down to the nitty-gritty, can be good or bad, because a lot of bad has come from science and a lot of good has come from it. A lot of bad has come from religion, a lot of bad has come from religion, and a lot of good. But more bad has come from religion in the Abrahamic patterns than good. The only time that religion or spirituality has been beneficial to human beings has always been outside the Abrahamic spiritual framework. Period. Because outside the Abrahamic spiritual framework, there's no other religion that I know that tells you that you have to see the world their way or die. My way or the highway doctrine. Buddhism doesn't preach that. Shiism doesn't. Hinduism, Zoroastrianism, Baha'u'llah, all the isms in the world except for Abrahamic. But that's another show. Two more points I want to make and then I'll hand it back. Mythology is your vehicle to cultural connection. Studying a society's mythology highlights what it values, what it fears, and what it believes. It fosters global empathy and respect for differences by showing how different groups understand the origins of the world. So it promotes peace. Mythology does promote peace amongst all human communities. Because if you understand mythology, then you have an open mindset for tolerance. And finally, it enhances comprehension. Mythology is the foundational bedrock of Western literature, art, modern storytelling, Eastern culture, Sub-Saharan African culture, all world cultures. Recognizing these allusions, whether reading classical texts or watching modern films or anime, whatever it is, it greatly enriches your appreciation of art. One more thing with mythology. There's street mythology and there's primordial myth. What is street mythology? Modern day, for example, modern day gangster, some gangster in the street who shot 20 policemen before he was handcuffed. He becomes a hero. Whether it's true or not, the story goes around, and next thing you know, there's a gangster that was able to do this and do this and do this, and everybody in the street now wants to be like the gangster. That's street myth. So you have those kinds of mythologies that add credibility to the street life or whatever you want to call it. You have religion myth that ain't true, but are promoted to have, to indoctrinate people into a certain way of living or looking at other cultures or whatever. So you have myth that is culturally and historically based, that you have fabricated myth designed to do one thing and one thing only: promote a certain way of thinking for the benefit of whoever is doing the promoting. And I yield back to you, DIBIA.
Powerful words, truthful words. Thank you for sharing those. UD, as I get older, I start to ask myself the question, what role did I play in establishing moral values in my children? Because a child would emulate what the parents teach. A child will emulate what the parents do. That's why they say monkey see, monkey do.
Monkey see, monkey
do. They will do what you do. So if you're not contributing to the child's value system, you have no right whatsoever to get angry, upset with that child when they go contrary to what you think is normal. Did you teach them that? Did you take the time to teach them that? What moral values are we teaching? I remember, DIBIA, you probably remember this story. And that really, for me, that was probably the most significant story among so many that mom and dad told us. And that's the story of that young man who went to the farm with his mother. And in the farm, he created a flute. And it was a beautiful flute. He played that flute. And it started getting late as they were packing things up and started walking home. He realized that he left the flute back where at the farm. And he tells his mother, I'll catch up with you. Keep going. I'll catch up with you. Mother says, no, it's getting late. Come on with me. And the young man said, Mom, it's okay. I'll be right back. And then what happened? What happened? When the boy got to the space where the clearing, where they were, where he was with his mother, where he had made the flute, it had gotten so dark he couldn't see the flute. And while he was there, it got so dark, he didn't see his mother. He didn't know how to catch up with his mother. And he started asking for somebody to help him find his way home. Long story short, a spirit found him and asked him what he was doing there. And he said he lost his flute and he was looking for that flute. And the spirit said, well, it's kind of late. I can't get you home, but you can come home with me. And the next day when it's light, you can go home. So he follows the spirit to the spirit world. And there were all these spirits, kind spirits, weird spirits, frightening spirits, but they were all there together. And when this young man got to the spirit world and was introduced to a room full of food, he remembered what his mother said. You never take anything that was not given to you. You have to wait. Doesn't matter if you're hungry, whatever. If it's not yours, you don't touch it. And hungry as the boy was, with all that food in that room, he did not touch it. He did not take anything, and he waited and waited. Nobody came and offered him the food, but he didn't touch it. But the spirit world observed him. The fact that he was not greedy, that he did not take anything, they're starting to talk amongst themselves. That's a good kid. Did you see that? He didn't touch none of that food. The next day, he asked, now, can you take me home? Now, they're getting very curious about this kid. Instead of them deciding to take him home, they decided, oh, well, we'll give you another day. Let's test this child and see what he has learned from his family, from his parents. And the next day, they took him into another room. And this room was full of all kinds of goodies, DBIUD, gold, silver, money, anything you can think about that was shining was in that room. The boy said, oh my God, what is all of this? But he remembered what he was taught. Greed is a bad thing. It will get you in trouble. If it's not offered to you, don't take it. So he didn't touch none of that. Third day came around. Now, you know, the spirits are watching. That's a good kid. He didn't touch any of those. Third day, they decided that it was time for him to go home. But while he was sleeping, all the spirits gathered together and said, okay, listen, that's a good kid. We have to send him home with something really good to show him that we appreciate the fact that he learned from his family, his parents, how to behave himself. So you did remember Ojinkoji, Gosao, and all the spirits, listen, we got a good kid here. You know, whatever you got, whatever good you have, put it in this box so that this good child will go home with something. Now, I know I'm telling a story here. It's kind of lengthy, but yeah. it has a point. And so the third day, all the spirits gathered a big box full of goodies. Then they had a small box full of goodies as well. Oh, and they asked the boy, well, you'll get ready to go home now, so we're going to give you this box. Which one do you want? Do you want the big box or do you want the small box? Well, remember again, mom and dad taught him not to be greedy. He says, oh, I'll take the small box. They said, okay. Now, how would you like to get home? We'll get the big, fast breeze to take you home, or we can give you a slow-moving breeze that will quietly get you home. He says, I'll take the slow-moving breeze. And here, on your way, if you hear, yeah, that means there are snakes in the bushes. You run out. Do not stay there. And if you hear, that means what? Elephants are coming. They're passing. That's when you run into the bushes. Well, this kid did everything that they said for him to do. The big breeze started carrying him home, and he heard the sound of the snakes, and he ran out from the bushes. And when he heard the loud noise of the elephants, he ran into the bushes to give them room to move. So quietly, he got home peacefully. And when he got home, he gathered his family and told his family, look what I got. The mother, of course, was very excited here. She had been very scared that she couldn't find her son. And so what happened eventually is that when he got home and he opened his box and shared with everyone and invited everyone to come and share the goodies with him, everybody came except the stepmother and stepbrother. They said, you mean to tell me they offered you a big box and you came here with this little box? Please, I don't want anything you have. I'll go myself and get my own thing. The next day, the stepmother and the boy went back to the bushes, to the farm. And the boy did not even bother to make the flute. He told his mama, you can go. It's getting late. You can go. You can go. The mother said, I know that's right. I'm going. When that spirit takes you, you know what to do, right? Greed. And the spirit did come this time. And when the spirit came, he said, what are you doing here? He says, don't worry about what I'm doing. Where are you taking me? That's the point.
No, that's right.
My brother came and you took him home. Take me home too. So the spirit said, you didn't want to go home? He said, no, I don't want to go home. I want to go to your home. So the spirit said, okay, come on. So when they got there to the spirit world, and remember, the first boy did not have any issues with all the different looking spirits. But this one said, ooh, he started describing them and said, oh my God, that's an ugly one. Oh my God, this one is too thin. He just started disrespecting the spirits. But they're watching him. They didn't say anything to him. So they put him in that room, and that room was full of food. He said, oh my God. He jumped in, didn't say prayer, nothing. He just jumped in and started eating. Just jumped in and started eating. Now remember, the first boy did not eat anything. He waited until he got permission. And when he didn't get permission, he didn't eat. Well, this one ate everything. He was so bloated with all that food, he passed out. They said, oh my God, the spirit said, whoa, did you see this boy? How awful. We didn't give him permission. He was eating. He's not like the other boy. They said, well, the next day he says, okay. What's the next thing? Can I go home now? Can you give me the box? And they said, no. We can't take you home today, but maybe tomorrow. The next day they had all the shiny objects of money and everything. And you know what he did. Yeah, you remember? He started pocketing everything. He was so bulged up with all the stuff he had stolen. And all the spirits are saying, oh my God, what kind of kid is this? This one is different from the first one. So the third day, he says, okay, the box, it's time for me to go home. I can't be here all this time looking at you crazy looking people. It's time for me to go home. They say, okay, this third day, we're gonna send you home. But while he was sleeping, all the spirits said, if you, whatever you have, all the nasty stuff you all have, bring it today, because some bad child is going home today. What an awful kid. So all the spirits got gathered, all the crappy things they could find, and they put it in the, in the big box, and then they put the same crappy stuff in the small box. And they asked him. Now you remember he was upset that his brother had come home with the little box, right? He said, "Give me the big box. That's where all the goodies are." That's what he thought, right? So when the spirits got ready to send him home, they said, "Now remember, when you hear, those are snakes. Don't go in the forest. You run out from the forest. And if you hear, that's elephants, you got to run into the forest and give them room to move." He says, "I don't have to listen to you. I do whatever I want to do." So they asked him which box he wants. He says he wants the big box. And he started going on. When he heard, he ran into the bushes instead of running out. And the snakes went to town on him, started biting him and everything. He was loaded with snake bites. And when he heard instead of running out, instead of running to the bushes, he ran out, and the elephants all stomped on him and everything. Well, it's mythology, so he somehow survived all of that. And they asked him about the wind. "Do you want the big wind or the small wind?" He said, "No, I want the big wind to get me home fast." So the wind picked him up and started beating him, hitting him against trees and everything you can think about. That boy was so messed up when he got home. But greed didn't allow him to want to share. He just said to Mom, "You just come. It's just going to be you and I. The rest of you," of course, everybody was excited that he was home, finally home. But he said, "The rest of you're not getting anything. I'm not like my brother. He was too stupid, excuse the expression, to get the big box. He brought the small box. I got the big box, and I'm not sharing." He locked the door, the windows, everything. Just him and his mom. And what happened? When he opened the box, everything horrible you can think about came out. There were snakes, there were everything that can bite, everything awful was in that big box. Now, you and I, as children, we learned something. Do you remember that? I learned that greed does not pay.
Yeah.
It's better to listen to what your parents taught you, do the right thing, and be willing to share. That didn't come from a book. That is not a book that's written right now. Is that right, Yudi?
It's true.
That is a mythology that we learned from our parents.
Yeah.
And I carried that with me. Greed is not, greed will get you nowhere. And if you have enough to share, share. If you don't, it's okay. But if you do have enough to share, share. Mythology, like DIBIA Yudi said, it's not a bad thing. It's not necessarily written. I mean, some of them are written now. But if you're a parent, think back what your parents taught you about certain things and share that with your children. Don't give them my children know this story very well. My children know this story extremely well. And I expect that they're going to teach their children that too, because it taught them how not to be greedy. It taught them how to respect adults. And it taught them not to disrespect people who look different from you. So when all is said and done, I share this story because I'm trying to convey to our listeners that we need to go back to what really matters. It's the time you spend with the child. Believe it or not, it's not the money you give the child. It's not the money you give the child. It's the time you spend with them, what they learn from you. You know, when a woman gives birth to a child and the father picks up that child just looks at that dad. If you pay attention, you notice they'll fixate their eyes on either the father or the mother. And from then on, they are expecting that these people I'm looking at, these are the people who are going to take care of me. I'm going to be protected. I'm loved just because of that connection that the child has developed, just coming out and looking into your eyes. You have to maintain that. You don't disconnect from a child just because they've gotten older. At some point when the children get too old for you to sit and tell them stories, right? you can still continue to remind them of what you taught them. If you see them doing the wrong thing, you have to ask them, remember what you learned from me, not from your phone, not from your Facebook, not from TikTok, not from, well, it's all this stuff that we are, remember what I taught you, so that you can teach your children. African spirituality is full of mythology. It's full of proverbs. It's full of information that children can use, not just for themselves after they grow up, but for their own children. This is a way that all of us can find time to reconnect with our families. Please, I ask you, if you're chaste, you need to practice that. Practice proverbs, practice mythology. Sit with your children. If you have a fireplace, hearthside confections, the hearthside, that's where you sit around. If you don't have what we had in Budo, where you go in the village and the elders are teaching you. Well, whoever the elders are, if you have a hearthside, sit around it, talk to these children, share what you learned. Don't be so disconnected. Some people are so excited to have children until the children get to a certain age, then you start seeing them as a problem. You start seeing them as a problem. Proverbs. If you don't know Proverbs, go talk to the elders of the family and find out what are the Proverbs that they heard. Now, I imagine you can get those Proverbs also. Some of them have been placed in what do you call it, in books, yeah. But the important thing is to grab some of those. If you don't know what to do with your children, grab a proverb and sit down and talk to your children about the proverb. Listen to them themselves and find out what the interpretation that they derive from the proverb, the interpretation they derive from the stories you tell them. This is connectedness. This is how we learn. This is how we continue to love family members. This is how we see ourselves. Ubuntu. I am because you are because of me. Without you, I'm nothing at all. We need to bring our families back together, get back to the African way. The African way is connectedness, being with your family. And that's why DIBIA UD, I'm sure for economic reasons as well. But most African communities, they live in UD, what is it called? The family live in
What?
Oh, what is it called? I can't think of it, what it's called right now, but the father lives here, the mother lives here, the son lives here, the daughter lives here. You know what I'm saying? They live in a compound. That's the word I'm saying.
Oh, compound. Okay, yeah.
They live in compounds because of that connectedness. That's why when a woman is old, it doesn't matter because the family surrounds her. When a man is old, it doesn't matter. They're surrounded by the family. Now, I know those kinds of living arrangements is probably very difficult to do in the present time. But I know of one of the stars who created such an environment for him and his family. As a matter of fact, they created a community where all of them live. The father, the grandmother, the grandfather, the son, and the daughters and the grandchildren. They created a compound. And when they did that, I can't think of his name. In Living Colors, what is the name of that that family? What are they called? You remember the stars in Living Color? I can't think.
The Wyans.
The Wyans, okay. One of them, the oldest, I think it's this middle son. One of them created a compound so the whole family, emulating the African structure. The whole family can live together. And when they live together, that's where it becomes unnecessary, right? To put the mom or dad in an old folks' home, because they can live in their home, but the family all of them are nearby to support them, you know, so they can still have their dignity and not, you know, wait to die. You know, living still continues to be a joy because they see their grandchildren, their great grandchildren, all that stuff. And when they leave this earth, they leave this earth happy. You know, they are not abandoned in old folks' home. You know, yeah, it's the Wayans. Thank you. It's the Wayans. So it's so important that some aspect of our spirituality becomes our reality. You know, getting up in the morning, pouring your libations. Nobody even has to be there. I created an environment in my kitchen where I'm just surrounded by plants. And in the morning, thanks to technology to some degree, I ask. I play the sounds of birds, you know, sounds of the forest, and that gives me an opportunity to just, you know, do my prayer and pour libations right into those parts and talk to my to Chineke, talk to the ancestors, talk, you know, wish goodwill to the community, wish goodwill to my children, all that sort of thing. You know, I'm connected, and I just started letting my kids know, while you're here, do the same thing. Pour libations. Don't start your day without libations. Don't. Because when you pour libations, you're preparing yourself for your day. You see? And that is what our ancestors did in the past. They didn't start anything until, and Dibia, you know this, before we even start to, if a guest comes to the house, before we eat, before we drink anything, what do? We bring kola nut, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anunzo, that's the first thing. That's our spiritual way of life. Community being together. And part of community being together is when you present the chalk, you present the kola nut, all of that. You know, the prayer that you offer is not just for yourself. You offer it for the whole family. You offer it for the community. That is what's powerful about African spirituality. So when people don't understand African spirituality, they talk all kinds of nonsense. And, you know, voodoo, this, that, and the other. They don't even know what voodoo is. So they just to discourage you from being connected to the whole. You know, there is no joy in being a singular person, being on your own. You have to be a part of a community, and we need to do that again. I'm telling you very honestly, if there's anything you can learn from Chiism, it is that, first of all, you're connected to the divine and to Chineke, or whatever name you have for the divine, and you're also connected to your family. You must maintain that connection, and always consult with Chineke and the ancestors on a daily basis before you do anything. Don't just walk out that house and say, I'll see you guys later. No. Have you asked for protection? Do you know what will happen when you step out of the house? You don't know that. And that's why you have to seek. You know, Dibia Yudi, if you remember correctly, Dad would tell you when to travel and when not to travel.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. When he does his prayer, he'll tell you this is not a good, yes, this is not a good day to travel. And you have to listen. Because of his strong sense of connection with Chineke and the ancestors.
He's almost never wrong either.
He's never, thank you.
He's almost never wrong.
Whatever
and everybody that had decided to travel when he told them not to, didn't end up very well.
They didn't end up very well. So whenever Dad said, no, this is not the day to travel, it's because he's already consulted with Chineke and the ancestors. And he's just sharing with you what you need to know. So Dibia Yudi, I just feel that our people have to really relearn, don't try to fit in an environment that was not designed for you. Seek instead to rediscover the environment that was designed for you, and the values and the morals and that they hold dear, that's a part of you. And when you relearn that, bring your kids closer, bring them, teach them, let them learn how to be, because someday you're going to be gone. And when you're gone and you haven't taught the children how to be connected, then that's when we have all this, separation. Everybody's going their own way, and a lot of times there are families right now that are just so disconnected. They don't even know each other exists. And sometimes when you're out of mind, out of sight, out of mind, you forget that you have, you know what I'm saying? You forget you have these family members. They don't, to you, they don't exist.
A year goes by, you never thought about them.
You never even think about them, because
and they don't think about you either.
They don't think about you either. And because we have adopted the Eurocentric system of living, which is, the child is 18 now, bye, you done. You old enough now, go on your own. But that's not the way it should be.
That's animalistic. Very animalistic way of behaving. Like animals. That's what animals do.
Yeah, when you get a certain age, they'll chase you out. The animals will chase you out.
Animal behavior.
Go on. Our behavior instead is we lived in compounds. Yes, we live. Many of us don't live in Nigeria or Africa or any other such communities. We live in European nations, and then we adopt those way of life. And I'm not saying it's all totally bad. That's not the point. The point is that you need to reinvestigate and reinvent and reinvest in the spiritual way of life, which is a lot of it is based on your mythology and the folklore. And so I would like to go to the next topic. I hope that you learned something this morning from DIBIA, UD, and I as it pertains to mythology and folklore. The other thing that I wanted us to talk about today is destiny. Destiny. Sometimes we say, well, it's somebody's destiny. If something doesn't go well, that's your destiny. Well, you can also control your destiny, because you do remember we talk about akaraka. Who you will become is already written. It's already written. If you're going to be successful, it's already written. It's not based on what somebody thinks. It's not based on somebody thinking you can be or you cannot be. No, it's already there. But you have to find that destiny. You have to use your skills. You have to use your skill set. All of us come into this world predestined to be somebody. Chineke doesn't bring you into this world so that you will fail. You are at least this is what we believe. It's already destined that you'll be great. It's already destined that you're going to be somebody. But do you know that? Unfortunately, we tend to listen to what other people say about who we are, right? And then we act accordingly. Somebody says to you, you'll never amount to anything. You're so fat. You're so ugly. You're so this. You're so that. And you buy into it. That's not your destiny. That's somebody's description of you. But that doesn't have to be what you buy into. I know it's difficult. It's quite difficult for you not to buy into a lot of things. When people say negative things about you, sometimes it's so difficult for you not to buy into it. But what we need to change our minds is, remember, you didn't come into this world to suffer. You may not get what you want right now, but your destiny is for you to be a successful being. If Chineke is in you, you have to understand that the power of Chineke is in you. So you have the capacity to make your destiny not what somebody said, but something that is positive, something that you yourself believe that you can be. Before you're not choke off, isn't that what we say? What do you think that is? If I want my destiny to be positive, then I have to listen to the word within. The word within. I have to listen to Chineke moving me forward, telling me, yes, you can. You don't believe in joy game with that. What you want, you will get. What you seek, you shall get. Not what somebody who doesn't know you, doesn't know your background says based on your physical self. Remember, a lot of people who say something negative about you is probably because of your physical being, not your internal being, not what you truly are inside. The most ugly person can be the kindest person. Do you understand what I'm saying? And the nicest person may not, the most beautiful person may not be the nicest person. So when somebody describes you based on your physical look and all that sort of thing, don't buy into that. What do you want out of life? That's what you focus on, not what people tell you. If when you're not chocolate, what you seek, so shall you find. So what are you seeking? That's your destiny, what you're seeking. Look at your skill sets. Look at what you're good at. What are you good at? That's what your destiny, that's what will take you to the destiny. That's what your akaraka is. We all come with skill sets. Many of us are artists. Many of us are engineers. Many of us are tech savvy. Many of us are all kinds of things. If you apply those things that are your ikenga, DIBIA UD, that's how you will become successful, using your ikenga, your talent. But many of us discard our ikenga because somebody said. Can't get to sage. You just look at somebody saying somebody is something stupid to you about you. You just say can't get to sage. Am I right, DIBIA? What is your business? It's not your business what I become. That's my business. I came into this world to be successful, and I need to find what my talent is, what my ikenga is, so that I can move myself forward. I don't need you to describe me. You weren't there when I was conceived. You didn't raise me. You don't know anything about me other than my physical look. Just think about that. Most people who describe you because of your physical look. The physical look doesn't mean anything. Like I said earlier, you could be ugly and beautiful inside. You remember, I always tell you the story about Okojubo. Okojubo was not a powerful man. Okojubo was ugly, but he was so talented. He could make boats. And in the village, he made the best boats. And when people see him, they laugh at him because he looked bad. Because he had a big head, and he had to carry his head in his hand, because it was too heavy. And yet, when the man would make a boat, it was the most creative boat anywhere. That's his ikenga. His talent is carving, building. And yet, when you see him, the first thing you see is his physical being, and then you have a comment. You make those comments to him. And that's why Okojubo will tell you, look, I don't care what you think of me. Now, let me tell you about me and you. You may be taller, I'm shorter. You're not better, you're not bigger than me. You may be fatter, I'm skinnier. You may be richer, I'm poorer. Just think about it. There is nothing that you have that I don't already have in equal amount. You may be good in one thing and I'm good in other. You may be great in one thing, I'm great in the other. He says,
you can't be short and tall at the same time.
You know what I'm saying? So so your opinion about me is not my reality. I know who I am. I know what my talent is, and I'm going to focus on that talent and use that talent to build myself up. When I was young, when I went to school, in elementary school, that was secondary school, and this particular teacher, for whatever reason, didn't like my dad because my dad was focused on African spirituality, and she was as Christian as they come, and she thought that she could bring me down by telling me all kinds of crazy things about who I was. You will never achieve this. You will never. As a matter of fact, in public, she shaved my hair to make me look horrible. But today, I am what I am because of my talent.
Today, I got 2 PhDs. How about that?
2 PhDs. That's right.
Yeah.
And she tried to take that from me, but you couldn't, because I had akaraka. My talent was already written. Not based on your thoughts about me, not based on your opinion, but based on the opinion that I have of myself, based on my talent and the talent that the divine gave me. So, Ibonye, who are you? Because we need to develop that a sense of the DIBIA Chideze has joined us. Hey! DIBIA.
Hey,
I'll go to room.
Welcome. Well, we were looking for you, and I'm glad you joined us, Mama. Mama.
Yeah, guys, yeah.
You got the red hat, he's got the
So I was
blue
on
hat.
transit.
Yeah.
That's saying something.
Did you
I'm
get
just trying
my?
to keep up with DIBIA Chiadozie. You know, every time he comes on, he's so sharp, man. Mr. Handsome. Now I'm losing it here. So that's why I got a red hat. Maybe just for 1 minute, I can look more handsome.
Yes,
That's all.
Wow.
I just want to look more handsome for 1 second. If I can achieve that, I've achieved everything. I know I've defeated DIBIA Chiadozie without a doubt.
So I'm telling you. So we're DIBIA Chiadozie, as you know, mythology, folklore, and destiny is what we're talking about, and we've talked about mythology, folklore, and now we're talking about destiny. And I was just sharing that our destiny is already written in our palms, and Ikenga is what we use to move ourselves forward. And we should not listen to the people who want to put us down based on what they don't know, based on what they see, but they don't know what's internal. They don't know what our capacity is. So it's up to us to use our capacity to build ourselves up and move forward. DIBIA Chiadozie, your thought? Okay. DIBIA Udi, why don't you talk about that and we'll bring him in?
Yeah, very good points. I've listened to what you're saying. I just want to add a few things real quickly, and how you say, dispel this myth that when you talk about the destiny, king, and all that, you're talking about something different. Just like when we were talking about mythology in the beginning, usually the prejudices and all that stuff that African culture, or other cultures experience from Western, critics. It's just the fact that when you talk about mythology, in any other context beyond the Christian or Abrahamic context, you're talking about some magic, voodoo, or whatever. But people forget that the Bible is just mythology. What do you call it? Roman culture, Zeus, and all that. It's actually, it's mythology, but it's religion. That's really what it is. All this myth, all that is religion. Mythology, that's what it is. You can't take religion's beliefs and then put it in a test tube, put a couple of chemicals, and then have this reaction. Yeah, you have reaction mentally, but it's not in the lab or a physical lab. It's in their head, right? Destiny refers to the idea that your life has been predetermined. It has a predetermined path, ultimate purpose. Your intended future is already baked.
Yes.
Most of the problem we had when I was growing up, and this is true, and I'm sure DIBIA Chiadozie will attest to it. When you were growing up, unless you were from a family that was invested in culture, mythology, all that stuff, nobody wanted you to be anything other than a European predetermined, discipline that you should be in. Either you're a lawyer, you're a doctor, you're an accountant, you're an engineer, an architect, something like that. That's it. You can't go to your parents and say, I want to be a politician. Dad, I want to be an artist. Oh, I want to build something. I want to do something. If you're not in those disciplines, then akaraka, ikenga has nothing to do with you. Nobody in the family usually talks about it is your ikenga that leads you to the hallmarks of your akaraka, which is your destiny. Nobody tells you that if you're talented in this or in that, concentrate on that. It will get you where you want to be, because it is, it is intended by Chineke. That is your God-given talent. That's what God made you to be. That's what Chineke gave you to live on and live by. That's what you should pay attention to. But in a lot of cultures that are heavily influenced by European educational standards, Ikenga, Akaraka has no bearing on anything and is actually frowned and looked upon, because you express the fact that you have this talent and you want to use this talent to make a living because this is your calling. And you know that if you're working with your hands, you will never work in your life. You will always do something that you are predestined to do, that you love doing, because it's your talent. So you don't have to engage in a lot of efforts to be successful, because what you're doing has love around it, and that's who you are.
You see?
Sometimes you're a doctor, but what you really wanted to be was a lawyer. But because your environment says that being a doctor was better than doing what it is that you are called divinely to do, you're a king. You neglected it. You're a doctor now, but you're not happy. You're working, you make good money, but you worked and died, never being what it is that God destined you to be. You're an artist. But your parents said, no. I can't tell my friends that my son is a painter, an artist, but it sounds better if I tell them you're an engineer. So here you go, you become an engineer, and you engineer all your life, but that's not your calling. You're not happy. And quite frankly, you probably were never successful being an engineer because you never put your mind into it. But what you didn't know was, even though you're an artist and you studied to be an engineer, but you could do artistic things being an engineer. If you tapped into your ikenga. So that you may get any other training that you want, but you can enhance who you really are by using your education to bring out your ikenga. So the moral of the story here, I'm not going to take up a whole lot of time because DIBIA Chiedozie has joined us, and his perspective is very wanted right now. But the bottom line is, if you neglect your natural talent, if you neglect what God called and made you and decided that you should be, and you neglected it, and you listened outside of your own ikenga, the likelihood of you ever being successful in life is minimal, let alone being happy. DIBIA Chiedozie, over to you.
Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself.
I was trying to do that.
Okay.
Yes, that was very powerful. The thing there is that we must know that some 200 to 300 years ago, our original trajectory as Black people world over was swept under the carpet and it was unofficialized. And what is not our way of life became officialized. I think there was this particular session I had with my student. We were shooting a video, and the video was on African knowledge. And I talked about the African conception of mind from following the Igbo conception of mother. And so I talked about mind having a cosmic part, having a physical part, and an intermediate part called onwe that allows us to make connections, synthesis, symbiosis. Without that, creativity will not be possible. So they said, but if I didn't go into DIBIA, I wouldn't know that, and I could not have arrived at that just by reading books on concept of mother, because nobody concerns itself about that. You have to sit to the DIBIA and see how their own concept of a human being that allows us for them to practice all aspects of DIBIA. It's all anchored upon the concept of Owa and mother. Chukwu, Owa, Chineke, Chukwu, and mother. And so every science of the people is based on their ontology, cosmology, and cosmogony. Ntoala, ordinala, and nomenala is based on that. So they said, but the thing there is that our own is not open, and the white man's own is open. I had to correct them. I said, what they should say is that the white people have made their own official and have unofficialized our own. Except because I still have the videos and the photograph of my initiation. And you do not go to join a cult and invite people. I invited people. They were there with me. They shot the video from beginning to end. They photographed me. It's a school, and that was our school. The way that traditionally In Asia, China, Japan, the children start by studying Shinto, Tao, and Hindu. That's how we were taught in our traditional schools in all over Africa those days. Now, I also refer them to Achebestin's Fall Apart, chapter 23, the conversation between Mr. Brown, the missionary, and Akonna, the traditionalist. Thereafter that conversation, Mr. Brown, the missionary, had to send message back to England that the only way that we could be can be penetrated was to catch us young. So schools were established to catch the mind of the children of Africa, and then communities were set up just like maternities. People don't ask why the missionary hospitals specialize on maternity, women. So they captured our women and captured our children. And then we, the men, have no alternative but to go there. And so what is happening is that our tradition is open. If you want to learn, you go and you meet the elders. There are processes of initiation. Just like we go to school, there are processes of initiation. And they ask you for your birthday and so on and so forth. Now, because we are not following our own trajectory of cosmology, we do not know that dating system is based on cosmology. When you are asked what is your date of birth, when you tell it to a typical European teacher, they know your horoscope. And horoscope is Alpha. It defines your destiny. They know those who are born certain period, they are good in engineering. They are certain people born certain horoscope are good in medicine. Some of them are certain people born certain period are good in letters. So you see, they group them. They naturally let them. That's why we keep mimicking Europeans without or the Westerners without knowing that their education system is based on their horoscope of human being in tandem with the cosmos, because we came from the elements, and the elements are combined at the point of your birth determines your nature, and that determines when you are born. The month, the elements are combined. So we had all of that, but all our own have been unofficialized, and so we were gravitated to a life that was not ours. And so it became that if you are not a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer, you are not human. You are not a human being. You are not accomplishing anything. You are useless.
Yes.
So that's how we gravitated ourselves away. And that's the problem in our education system today, because education is based on virtue. And virtue means that virtue means moral excellence. There is no moral excellence without talent. You're a king.
Yeah, true.
There's no moral, there must be a talent. And if that talent is negative, it behoves on society to channel that talent to positive. That's why you have detectives. Detectives are ndoshi, robbers, thieves, but they steal for the country. Anezuru Obodoshi. We officialize them. They have all the instincts of what it takes to be a robber, what it takes to be a rogue. But you train them to steal for the Obodo, for the nation. And you have spies. If they spy on us, if we leave them, they will spy and we will not rest at night. But we've officialized their talent by making them to spy on our behalf and to secure us, and then we pay them, we give them title, and so they become, we normalize their psyche. So talents are the thing that determine what a human being will be. There are those whose talents are already towards excellence. There are those whose talent must be rechanneled. So all of these were there in our culture, and education was based on talent. So, but now we are trying to introduce a new education system based on vocation, and we are not even going back to our ontology of the human being. We are not going back to our ontology of the cosmos. And when you tell people, they say, no, it has nothing to do with spirituality. It has nothing to do with that. What has happened is that the Westerners have secularized their spirituality. Instead of talking about divination, they talk about horoscope. They talk about what do they call? There's a name for, they call divination, geomancy. They call it
It looks like you're frozen. Well, let me continue while it's talking.
Spirit more. They have replaced it. So spirit, they have replaced.
It looks like DIBIA Chiedozie is having some challenges with his connection.
The only thing that have their spirituality is there. The only thing, so they have secularized their spirituality, and that is what I think we should do in Chism. We should begin to paint our spirituality in more intellectual, secular dimensions. The ontology is there, the nitty-gritty is there, but we use verbs, new alphabet, new nouns and concepts that will make them contemporary so that they become acceptable to our people. You know, that's what the Westerners have done. That's what the Asians have done. And we can't keep complaining, because if we keep complaining, the world is not waiting for us. So what we need to do, that's why I'm crying that even, you know, we have been so messed up that even when you establish a school based on our ontology, people just talk about it with their mouth. They are not ready to bring their money to register. Yeah, if you flog them and flog. So that's the problem we have. And so that's why I said it will take a nation to do that. The Jews solved the problem by founding a nation against all odds. Whether they are acceptable or not, we need a nation, the national question. Once we have that nation, we can talk about, we will have to use our language for education. We have to use our language for communication, for everything. We cannot do that without going back to our spirituality. Then once we go back to our spirituality, cosmology, ontology, and cosmogony will work together and become the foundation of our education, of everything we do. Then our education will go back to virtue, will go back to talent, Ikenga, and Akaraka will be harmonized. That's my own view. Thank you.
You are absolutely wonderful, DIBIA Chiedozie. I could just hug you from here, embrace you. You are a true brother indeed. And actually, after this show, we're going to have a little conversation. There's some things going on that you may not be aware of, and I want to bring you into it, and because I want to see how you can fit in and be part of it. But just to buttress what you're saying, you know, the second month of our 13-month calendar is called Ikenga. Shijoko, this is the first month. Second month is Ikenga. Iguji, Mpocha, Ekuroche, Ipiale, Imomiri, Amalioha, Kamalo, Ezelu, Agunsi, Ofufe, Ayamu. Those are the 13 months.
Okay.
Okay? The 13 months of the year. So we already got our own stuff, but we don't present it like we're supposed to. Originally, all world calendars was 13 months anyway. 12-month calendars, Johnny come lately. But the point I'm trying to make is just to buttress what you were saying. In Nsibidi Nkembo, which is Nkomi, right?
Yeah.
Verse 12 says, no one is created by me to be destitute.
Okay.
Listen inwardly to yourself. Identify who you are in terms of your Ikenga, talent. Then properly interpret and obey my faint voice in you, and you will be led to your chi, to the hallmark of your akaraka, your destiny, which is it's engraved in you, but you got to listen, which is the ultimate, which if you get it, then it leads you to the ultimate happiness in life, which you can achieve. No matter what your station in life, if you listen to your Ikenga, you will never be poor.
That's it.
If you listen to your ikenga, you'll never be poor, but you have to get to a point where both in the family, in the street, and in the classroom, that way of thinking must be established in our academic curriculums.
Yeah, that's it.
Our education must stress your ikenga, nothing else.
That's it. It must.
Your ikenga is the first. Once you identify a child's talent, then you can now hone it to expertise.
Yes.
They become expert in whatever it is, and they don't need a 4-year education or a PhD.
No,
they
you don't.
guide that ikenga from its infantile to its maturity. Trust me, if you do that, nobody can ever become a better expert on that specific subject than the child that listened and paid attention, and the parents that encouraged the child to focus on their ikenga, their talent.
Yes, to buttress
That's
what
the
you
way
just
it worked in my village in Umporo.
Of course, to buttress what you said, where in 2011, I was in Cape Coast University for sabbatical leave. And I went to the market, at Kotakraba market, to purchase, it was a weekend, to purchase what I would cook. And so I got to the abattoir. And the man I met there, he looked at me, he said, "Oh, Professor, come, I sell you good meat." He spoke very fluent English. And I asked him, did he go to school? He said, no, he didn't go to school. That he comes from a family that all they do is to rear cow and kill and sell. And he asked me how I was living. I told him, he said, that's his building. That he has 10 of that in the whole of Cape Coast.
Wow.
And it was a 5-story building. And this 5-story building had 30 rooms, each one en suite. And he has 10 of that. And he gives it out to Cape Coast University at very subsidized rate. That he is, in fact, is honored in that town as one who helps the university. Now, I told this story in the sense that these are people who from little follow their trajectory of their
Exactly. Exactly. As a
so,
matter of fact,
just to round up. Now, if you look at it, it's only in Africa that our mother will be selling akara, moi moi, and other things. When we go to school, so-called white-collar job, we get a job in the company. We go and uproot our parents from the village or out of the job that they do. And that's the end of that trade. But if you watch what other people do from Europe to America to Canada to Asia, if you watch what they do, if their mother fries akara, they go to school to study what will magnify that trade. And the one will go and study engineering, another one will study accounting, another one will study law. When they come, they will put all that into that trade. They will produce machines that will fry akara neatly with less labor.
Yeah.
And the one we law we argue for how it can be made the law that will make it proficient. Then the one that read accounting marketing will bring strategy for marketing it. And before you know it, they are not thinking of the little family. They are thinking globally.
Globally. As a matter of fact, let me just finish this point right quick, because I know DIBIA has come back and she's going to say something. But thanks for kind of adding that to what I was saying. Let me just finish this real quick on the verse 13. On the verse 13, after Chineke, on verse 12, it says, "No one is created by me to be destitute. Listen inwardly to yourself, identify who you are in terms of your Ikenga talent, and then properly interpret and obey my voice in you, and it will lead you to the hallmarks of your destiny." Then in verse 13, Chineke says, "Whatever your chi tells you to do it with your heart. For as to each person I give a best in one thing as part to fulfillment of ultimate destiny of happiness, from which my children of light shall derive happiness, consolation, and peace of mind. So look into yourself. Identify your Ikenga." Let me say this again to everybody listening right now, old, young, or in the middle. Look into yourself and identify your talent, your Ikenga. And work with your chi, work with God, work with Chineke. Listen to the faint voice of chi in you. If you listen closely with your ears to the ground, you will hear footsteps of ants. God is always talking to you. Chineke is always in your heart talking to you. The question is, are you listening? Will you listen? Every one of us have an ikenga. We have talent. Everyone. We are all endowed with something special. We're special in the eyes of Chineke. We all have something, but we all need to be in an environment where ikenga is the order of the day. That is what people talk about. That is part of what we should all talk about when we're raising our kids. Identify talents in your children. If they know how to do calculations, move them towards engineering. If they know how to design things, it could be engineering, it could be art. If they talk a lot, they could become senators, lawyers. If they know how to fix things, they care about people, they could become doctors, lawyers. If they are very conscious about human feelings and all that, they could become socialists, priests, whatever. But it all comes from parents that look at their children, because it's not the child that does the identification. The child just knows how to play. Those things that they know how to do, they love doing. But they're not looking at it as this is what I got to do when they're 5 years old or 6 or 7 in the future. Most of them don't see that. They're just kids with talent. They do what they do. But you as a parent, you that feed these kids, you snorkel them, you do all kinds of, take them to school. When they're sick, you take care of all that. You that pay attention to the children should be able to recognize their talents and move them in that direction. Because a child that is keyed into their ikenga will never work a day in their life. And that is really the real key to happiness, which is doing what you love doing and making a living out of it. That's what we should all aspire to. Over to you, okay, DIBIA.
And that, thank you, DIBIA Yudi. That gives you the joy of living, because you're doing what you're good at and what you enjoy doing. You know, sometimes we play God, we play Chineke, we become Chineke. Yes, the spirit of Chineke is in us, but we're not Chineke. Okay, we have the strength of Chineke in us, but we try to be Chineke by determining that this child is no good. This is my child is not like this other one. You know, and based on that, you communicate that to that child and you discount his or her skill sets. And they start getting jealous of the one that you have chosen, because that one you've chosen is more like you. This one does, you know, she's just like me. This one, I don't know. And you don't pay attention to what their skills are so that you can help them develop those skills and use those skills to become what they are supposed to be. There's a song we sing. There is no child, there's no person better than the other. Everybody has their own skill sets. And this one may become a millionaire using this skill set. And the other one may not be a millionaire, but will be a happy human being, a kind human being. So like DIBIA said, you know, you need to find what your skill sets are, what the skill sets are in your children, and promote that. Not every child can be a doctor. Not every child can be an engineer. And if they are not that, it doesn't make them a failure.
Yeah.
They need to apply their ikenga. They need to be who they were destined to be. And stop pushing children to be what they're not supposed to be. And the schools do that too, DIBIA. The schools do that. You know, it's like all the kids are supposed to, at a certain level, they're supposed to know this and know that. No, they don't. People learn different ways. People are, their skill sets come out at a different time. But if they're not doing what this child is able to do at age 6, then something is wrong with them. Then we label them. They're not looking you in the face, because most kids at a certain age should look you in the face. And so most kids should be crawling at a certain age. Most kids should be talking at a certain age. There's a young man today who was called autistic. He didn't speak till he was 12 and a half. He didn't speak a word till he was 12 and a half. And they labeled him. Today, he's attending a university in physics at age 12. Maybe it wasn't for him to display all of that while he was little. Maybe the Ikenga started showing up after he has stored all kinds of information in his brain. While you're doing all the talking, he is learning. He's putting it in his brain. But you think, oh, because he's not regurgitating it to you when you want him to do it, then something is wrong with him. Let's label him. Something's wrong with him. But then when he's ready, when he absorbed all the information he needs to, it just comes right out of him. To the extent that he surpasses all the other kids. This kid is 12 and a half and doing physics and going from place to lecture. He didn't start speaking. I think he's 14 now. I'm sorry. I think he's 14 now. He's a lecturer working on PhD in physics.
Wow. Real wow.
But we need to be very careful how we define people, how we define children. Like DIBIA Yudi said, find what they're good at. The Igbo people say, Onya dinoma or dinoma. Onya dinoma or dinoma. If you're not good in one thing, you're good in something. There's nobody who is not good in anything. Hey, you can be good in just being quiet. Just being quiet. You absorb. There is no child born that has no, even if you're a cripple. Have you seen some children in the streets who can't walk? But man, let me tell you, they will sell you a banana if you hate bananas. Maybe they don't have the skill set. Maybe because of their condition, they can't walk. But it has nothing to do with their brain capacity. We need to see people where they are. That's African spirituality. Don't be so quick to define a person because of what you think. Give them a chance to prove themselves. Give them a chance to prove themselves. Don't log your children together. Don't make them what they are not supposed to be, and don't look down on the one that didn't go to college. Don't look down on the one that didn't do this and didn't do that. When they are ready. For those of you who don't speak Igbo, you need to know this. When you wake up, that's your morning. Now I can wake up at 6 a.m. Some people wake up at 4 a.m. Some people wake up at 10 a.m. But maybe you wake up at 6 p.m. That's your morning. That's when the day begins for you. And it's okay. It's okay. So when one child performs earlier than the other child, don't discount the other child's talent. Don't discount the other child's waking up later in the day. I want you to learn to say that. When you wake up in the morning, that whenever you wake up in the day, that's your morning. That means whenever you're ready to showcase who you are, that's when you're ready. That's your morning. Everybody has talent. To each his own. And we as parents need to be very cognizant. We talked about mythology, folklore, and destiny. That's what we're talking about. Your destiny, a child's destiny, and your destiny is not determined by what people think. It's not determined by what people expect. It's more determined about what you are ready to do when you're ready to do it. What is your talent? Everything that we enjoy today comes from somebody's talent. Yes. Everything. It's somebody's ikenga. And we enjoy it. We take advantage of it, not because that's our own personal ikenga. No, but because their Ikenga have resulted in something that we can use and apply in our own well-being. You can do the same thing. But if you're so focused on what is expected of you, you will never shine. Show us what we got. Show us what you have. And if we focus on what we have and recognize what you have, that's how you shine and that's how you're happy. And so some of us who are parents or adults in the society, we need to be very careful how we define our young. We have to be very careful how we define our people, our children, our communities. Look at Abia State. I had to throw this in. I had to throw this in. Look at Abia State. Abia State was one of the least respected.
It was the worst.
In Nigeria.
It was the worst.
It was literally the worst state in Nigeria.
Yep, it was.
People did not expect anything out of Abia. If you say you were Abia, they laugh at you.
Now it's the best.
Now it's the best state in Nigeria. But what makes it the best state? The leadership skill of the governor, Alex Oti.
He tapped into it.
That is Ikenga. When he was trying to use his Ikenga, we did not vote for him. Oh, he's too short, some people say. Some people tell you, oh, he's too short. He doesn't look like a governor. What the heck does that mean? Because our mind tells us that height and stature equals talent. So we vote for the person who talks too much.
Who's tall.
We vote to, somebody
handsome,
who's tall, who's big, pretty. Somehow, or pretty. Somehow we think that means that they can be good leaders. A good leader is the one that applies his Ikenga. Alex Oti, his Ikenga is leadership. His Ikenga is leadership, and he's using it. If you go to Abia State, some of the things that you and I did, when we left Nigeria, didn't exist. We have bus stations.
And that was just 3 years ago.
Just 3 years ago, we have all kinds of things. Bus stations, the streets. People are talking about
bus stations take you anywhere in Nigeria.
Anywhere. Yeah, people are talking about Aba. Aba, I remember when I landed in Nigeria. When I landed in Nigeria from Port Harcourt to Umuahia, my parents lived in Umuahia, so you have to pass Aba. And I used to be so embarrassed when I have guests traveling with me. Mountains of trash. Place was horrid. Did we have a leader back then? Of course we did.
We had
several leaders, and
we didn't have a leader. We had a criminal.
Succession did not amount to anything. But now what do we have? We have a man who's using his Ikenga. You can proudly drive from Port Harcourt to Umuahia and not see those mounds of trash anymore. As a matter of fact, they're converting the trash into energy.
Into electricity.
Into electricity. And so now think about this, how it's working on the people's minds, right? Yep. If you're paid for bringing your trash, okay? Well, you're not going to find any mounds of trash because now everybody wants their trash.
Trash is money.
Trash is money. So if you see trash, psychology, if you see trash anywhere, what do? You have your bag, right? You put all that trash in there so that you're going to be paid.
You make some money.
He has used psychology to work with the minds of the people. And now the people are excited about this leader. So I say this to say, we have a responsibility to ensure that everybody is given the chance to be all that they can be. Everybody. Nobody has no talent. If you're not good in one thing, you're good in another. Look at yourself. Be prideful that, you're not an engineer, you're not a doctor and all that kind of. All those people are very important. But do you know the best known human being in this world? The best artist. It's not all these greater European artists that we talk about. The greatest artist in the world is the man who draws that white line on the road.
Yeah.
Who doesn't see that work?
Purposeful.
Who
He's
does?
very famous.
Everybody sees that work.
And
You
the
know?
smiley face.
You see what I'm saying? When you think somebody doesn't have talent, you're mistaken. If you pay attention and you give them the opportunity to shine, you will see. You know, there's a song we say, Adimocha n'ime obi dịkwa nsọ n'ime mmụọ, gịnị ga-eme ka ndị ndụ ghara ịgara chi m ozi. I am good in every way. I'm good in my heart. There's no way that I cannot serve the divine. And serving the divine is to use your akaraka. That's how you serve. You serve God, you serve humanity by being the best that you can be, by using your talent, by being who you are. Nobody can define you. You came defined. When you came into this world, you already defined. Chineke's already said, "Ooh, that's my child. He's going to be this or she's going to be that." But then we ignore our talent and we go after what people say that we should do. My dad is a doctor, so I have to be a doctor. My mom is a nurse. I have to be a nurse. My mom is an engineer. I have to be a nurse, an engineer. My mom is a lawyer. Hey, let me be a lawyer. That is not necessarily what you were ordained to be. So whereas it's nice to be what mom and dad are, you need to ask yourself as you get older, because when we start going to school, we're doing that. Every parent wants to brag about their child, and it's normal. It's good. But just remember, don't let that child be what you are. Don't force that child to be what you are. Allow their skill sets, allow their ikenga to shine, because that's what will make them happy. That's why a lot of people, they're doctors, and they decide, I'm going to go live in the wilderness. I'm done with this doctor stuff. That's not what they were destined to be. That's what you wanted them to be, because you're a doctor, or because the family is proud of doctors, or because the family is full of doctors. Then you ignore the ikenga of that child. And ultimately, that child is not going to be happy. So that's why it's so important. Time is against us now. And I'm so appreciative that we had this conversation today. DBS of the Round Table, thank you so very much for your contribution. And I'm going to ask you we only have about 30 seconds each to leave a parting message to our listeners. DBA, I'll start with you. 30 seconds, that's all you got.
Yeah, in Nigerian context, you cannot have a doctor become the federal minister of social affairs. That's what happens when you don't apply the right ikenga to the right situation or thing.
That's right.
Okay? That's just what I wanted to say. That's about it.
That's right. Yagazie. Yes, my dear brother. Yes. DBA Chiedozie.
Yeah, the whole concept of the universe is based on Akaraka. Every star has its own destiny. And in that way, society is established on Akaraka, or the king and Akaraka. Every society is established on talent, because it's when we exchange our talents, we excel, we become useful to self and useful to the entire universe.
Thank you.
So that's why the whole concept of society is that, like I tell people, if you say Bill Gates is $70 billion rich, he had generated over $700 billion for America, out of which he has 70 billion, 10%. That's how it's done. So that with your Akaraka and your Ikenga, you are useful to the universal human being and yourself. And then you fulfill the destiny that God said you should come to. Because the essence of your Ikenga and Akaraka is not for you, just you. It is for all of us and me. And you and all of us. Ubuntu. Thank you.
Ubuntu. Yeah, so it is.
Really Ubuntu right there, man.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, all of you who have joined us today, thank you so much for joining us. We are so appreciative. I want to thank the DBS of the Round Table for your contribution. And if there's one thing that I hope that you take away from today, is that you need to go back to the source, Sankofa. Go back to the way it used to be. Teach your children, talk to your children, go back to storytelling. And while you're doing that, remember to honor and respect the Ikenga of the child. That destiny is what's going to make them happy, and that's what they're going to use to make contributions to this world. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you again in 2 weeks as we present another episode of Chiism Live. DIBIA Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And remember, do not forget to subscribe to our channel. And so it is. Yagazie.